My name is Ian and welcome to Planted. In this video we're going to demystify pruning. I've got 4 examples for you, and hopefully these examples will help you grasp the better way to approach pruning so that you don't end up with a rounded gumball shape and wonder where all your flower buds have gone. Now, before we get to those 4 examples, let's just briefly cover why we prune. The first is to improve flower production, and that could also be fruit production if you're growing apples or pears. It's the same thing, they're connected. So you've got improving flower production, you've got reducing the size of the plant. If you have a very big wisteria and it's got out of hand, you need to really cut out a lot of foliage, a lot of branches to uncover the shape that you've got and what it is that you want to keep. Then the third is you are going to cut out diseased wood, dead wood, or branches that are touching and they're crossing. So those are the 3 broad steps of pruning. Reduce the shape, improve flower production, and then cut out dead, dying, or crossing branches. Now, those are the 3 broad methods, and then you've got pruning for shrubs, trees, vines, roses, perennials. And each of those 3 on those different plants, you need to have a slightly different approach. With all that said, let's dive into 4 examples. And I really hope that these can help move you towards a more productive, more successful pruning. In the first of our 4 examples, we're going to look at this perennial plant. Now, the majority of perennials will die down to the ground. The crown will stay in the ground, and then you cut back every season. This is a wonderful plant called Disporum, and it has tall stems 3 to 4 feet high. But as with most perennials, when it starts to put out new shoots, you don't want to be getting in there and then start to prune, because they can get easily damaged. So the trick with this plant is to cut back the majority of it first, like this. I'm going to bring you in closer so you can better see what I'm doing here. So what we have, this here, this is last year's wood, so we cut that back. But in here, you can start to see that is a new shoot, and so is that. And there's another one over here. So if you were to leave this an extra 3 weeks or 2 weeks, these stems would start to grow and they could easily get damaged. Now, if you get a landscape contractor come in and cut back your perennials, they may not know that this plant is putting out shoots at this time of the year. This is where the homeowner, when it comes to pruning, can do a really good job. And now that you can see clearly, you can go back in and cut out more of the old growth. The next one I want to show you is over here. And what we have is the remarkable hardy banana. Now, this is quite a confusing example. Let me get started. This is the spectacular Musa Basjoo. It's the hardy banana. I've had this for many years. It's been a wonderful success. It will grow 12 feet high every year with massive leaves, and it's become a real talking point. Now, I'm lucky that I've got this planted on the south side of my house, so it gets a bit of protection. It's actually in a corner, so it gets a lot less wind, and this is how I would recommend anybody grow it in a zone 7. Give it some protection and it'll come through the winter beautifully. But here we are in early spring, and I want to remove all of this growth. And the reason is that I want to remove the cold, wet layer of mulch that's got it, not mulch, sorry, leaves that have got it to come through the winter. And by removing that, the sunlight can get in there and it will heat up the crown and start to prompt the plant to put out new shoots. So the pruning here is to open up the crown to get some heat in there for it to regenerate. Our next subject is a shrub. This is the plant called Edgeworthia. Flowers in late March. Beautiful fragrance, great flowers. There will be a link in the description. Now I don't want to cut any of these branches that I'm touching now, but I want to remove this. And I can do that at any time of the year. And this is because I gave it a prune last year, reduced the crown height, and now the plant's got a lot of roots down here for a relatively small crown. So it's thinking I've got all that water, all that nutrient, I'm going to put out some side shoots. So let me cut these off. You'll often see me go in and make a cut, and then go in later and make a better cut lower down. What I've done there is I've removed some of the growth that's blocking my view, and now I can see exactly what to cut. So don't be afraid to go in and cut back to, say, here. You might then cut back to there, and then you can make your final cut and remove it. So don't feel that you have to go in and make the first, initial, and only perfect cut. You don't need to do that. Something to bear in mind is that when you're pruning, one of the techniques that you need to employ is that for pruning to increase flower. Now with this flowering in late March, if I were to give it a prune, I'd cut off all the flower buds. So that doesn't make sense. These flower buds are initiated back in late September, early October. You can just see these little tiny furry buds forming. They're carried on the plant all winter long. They flower in late March, go into April. Traditionally, we prune in the springtime, but not with this plant. So you have to find out particularly with shrubs, their flowering window, and you prune them after they flowered. So plants like wisteria and magnolia, you prune them after they flowered. And this Edgeworthia is no different. Now I'm going to spend a few more minutes going in here and taking back all these little stumps, nice and tight, back to the main plant. That's a very easy process. But you get the gist of it. This pruning is not cutting it into a gumball, leaving these shoots, cutting off all the flower buds, and then wondering why you have this strange shape. This is the structure that I want to keep, and this is the growth that I wanted to remove. Let's go on to our next subject. This is a fantastic plant called Tetrapanax. It has huge foliage. Just look at the size of these leaves. Now, this is a very interesting subject because we don't know how much of it's going to come through the winter. It is hardy in my zone, but when you get strong desiccating winds, a lot of this branch structure can die back. Now, I do not for one moment think it's dead. I think that this crown down here is hardy and tough and will regenerate. But from a pruning standpoint, we don't know if it's going to regenerate from down here because these branches are dead, or if these branches will start to sprout here and here and here, or if in fact the whole crown is intact. It might be putting out leaves from the very, very top. All you need to do is wait until you can see where the shoots are. I fully expect that the top half has died back. There's some discoloration, but this could well be intact and regenerate. And rather than guessing, I'm not going to prune anything. I'm going to prune off these little, these are the leaf stalks. That gives you an idea of the size of the leaves this plant has. But I'm just going to wait. I'm just going to wait a little bit longer and see where the stems put out new shoots and new foliage. Now let's just do the briefest of recaps. The first thing is you must have good clippers. In England we call them secateurs. The industry standard is a brand called Felco, F-E-L-C-O. There'll be a link in the description on a video about Felco clippers, how to use them, how to hold them. Very important, you should watch that. So with your Felco clippers, pruning can now be, I wouldn't say easy, it can be easier, and it can be more productive and more successful. But let's just recap the four plants that we went through and pruned. The first was the Disporum. Like many perennials, hostas, daylilies, peonies, that growth will die down. You can leave it on there for the winter, put some leaves on top of it, and it will give a layer of insulation, and then you can cut it back. But be very careful. You don't want to damage those little new shoots that will start to emerge. Then you've got the hardy banana. And this is a little bit of an anomaly because not many people grow the hardy banana. I don't know why. It's a wonderful plant. But the pruning here was cutting back growth from last year, but also in removing that growth from last year, we removed a layer of leaves that were put on there to give it insulative value. What that does is get the sunlight into the crown, let it heat up, and that can prompt the plant into growing. We then had the Edgeworthia, where we were not pruning for shape, we were not pruning for flower production, but we were removing a few of those side shoots from the very bottom that would make the plant put on huge growth that did not support our end goal. That growth was initiated because it was pruned last year for flower production, and you have a smaller crown, a bigger root system, and the plant thinks, well, I can support more growth. So it put out those side shoots. And then finally, we had the Tetrapanax. And this plant is nothing but, well, I'm not sure where I'm going to grow. I don't know where I'm going to grow. And if you were to prune it prematurely, you might be cutting off wood that would have new shoots on it. So just by exerting a little bit of patience, you will get all the signs you need as to know where to prune it back to. A new shoot, no shoot, we're going to cut back to here. So that's it. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you liked it. Bye for now.